Global and VP of Business Development. He has more than 40 years of experience as an entrepreneur in the direct sales and network marketing industry. He's worked at all levels of the industry, including ownership, executive management, consultant, and distributor. He's built successful network marketing organizations in 4 companies, with the largest having over 500,000 distributors in 17 countries. With his extensive experience at both the corporate and distributor side of the industry, his focus is to maximize the success of both distributors and the company. Now, over to you, Michael.
All right. Hey, thank you very, very much. Let me go ahead and get set up here. So yeah, Peter, I love the idea of being able to do something for myself and for other people that can help get them set up to passive income. And that's really what's so unique about this program. So hey, everybody, as Peter said, my name's Michael Stern. I am here in the US in Arizona, and I want to welcome you to IHUB Global. If you're looking at this for the first time, or maybe the first few times, I want to share, just as Peter was saying, that this is something that really is an opportunity that does not come very often and you should not take lightly. So let me give you a little bit of background on this, and then we'll kind of describe it a bit so that you can kind of get a sense of what we're talking about and what's really on the table here. It was about 15 months ago that I was introduced to a company that's building the world's largest wireless network. And I was kind of curious as well, why are they building the world's largest wireless network? And I found that it had to do with something called the Internet of Things, also referred to as IoT, just as Peter was explaining this concept of the Internet of Things. And quite frankly, I really had a misconception about what the Internet of Things was all about. I thought it was some super high-tech thing that really didn't involve the general population in a way that would really be beneficial to them, other than it being beneficial to some tech sector using it. And I realized that that was not really an adequate understanding of it as I started asking people, hey, what do you know about the Internet of Things? And I reached out to one of my long-term colleagues in business, a guy named Chuck Hansen, who is now my partner in IHUB Global. And when I asked him, I said, what do you know about the Internet of Things? He said, not a clue. But we started asking a few other people, and most people kind of were in that first category. They didn't know hardly anything or anything at all about this concept of the Internet of Things. But one person in particular said, well, I know lots about it. And he explained that he owned his own vending machine company, and that already all of his vending machines were already connected to the internet, and they all placed their own order as they needed to be able to restock the inventory in those vending machines. And it saved the company all kinds of time and money, because the person physically having to do that restocking just looked at their iPad and they would know precisely in advance what to take to each particular machine. And I realized that that was a very practical, real world consideration that had to do with the IoT space. And then I started looking at this IoT space, and I realized that that was really more of the standard as opposed to what I previously thought, and that there were countless examples of having different kinds of technology that would output information that can be used to make some process or some application more cost-effective, more user-friendly, more efficient. And that really is why there's this explosion going on in the world of the Internet of Things, so much so that it's already over an $800 billion industry, with some 8.4 billion devices already connected to the internet. In fact, more devices than people connected to the internet. And of course, that 8.4 billion includes that guy's vending machines as an example of the kind of devices that are connected. And it's expected by the end of the decade to exceed $2.4 trillion, with some 70 to 80 billion devices connected to the internet. So really the examples are countless out there at these kinds of numbers, and talk about billions of devices, but they cover all kinds of things. In fact, it's amazing, as Peter was sharing, the initiatives at the community level that can be solved by freeing up creative energy for people to be able to figure out how to solve a problem using IoT types of technology to solve some issue in a community. It's amazing what's possible. And that's why it is so explosive. And that's why there's so much going on. And yet, frankly, the general public knows very, very little about it. And I found all this very interesting, but it isn't really what drove us to put together iHub. What drove us to put together iHub was really focusing on the company building this world's wireless network, largest wireless network. And that company is called Helium Systems. They're based in San Francisco. And they sorry about that, guys. You can kind of track that for me. So they started analyzing what's going on in the world of the Internet of Things back in 2013. And that's when they decided to put the company Helium together, because they recognized that there was a very serious need for companies that wanted to be involved in the IoT space to be able to very seamlessly, very simply be able to get their data to the internet, because that's where they saw the biggest issue was. It was one thing to have a device that could output useful information, but if you can't get that device connected to the internet, then you're not able to take advantage of what's possible in this world of the Internet of Things. And they saw that most companies were having to build their own methodology of connecting their devices to the internet, or using a cell phone company with their data plans that were expensive and also somewhat more difficult to connect their Internet of Things devices with. And so they came up with this idea of building a worldwide network, a peer-to-peer network that would allow anybody anywhere in the world that wanted to expand the reach of that network by getting what they call a Helium hotspot and plugging it into their location and hooking up to the internet, that would allow IoT devices within a kilometer or two around where they are to use their Helium hotspot as the means for that IoT data to be sent to this device via an encrypted data through a radio frequency based on something called LoRaWAN radio. And that's a mouthful, but LoRa just stands for long range. It's also referred to as long-fi, and it has a range of about 200 times further than Wi-Fi. And that's why it's so effective. So an IoT device within a kilometer or two of one of these LoRa Helium hotspots would be able to send their data to that Helium hotspot, and that Helium hotspot would then have its own connection to the internet based on however they use their internet services, and that would send that IoT data to the internet. And then what Helium has done to incentivize us to do this, which was genius on this whole project, and the part that got us excited about this project that led us to put together iHub Global, is Helium created their own cryptocurrency token, their own cryptocurrency blockchain, completely based on this project, that would reward the people that put one of these hotspots in their location with these cryptocurrency tokens that has had the same name as the company Helium and the 3-letter code HNT, and be able to have people generate a passive residual return by these Helium tokens rewards simply for putting one of these units in their location. And that is what got our attention. And when we saw the overall possibilities of that, that's what led us to put together iHub Global. And I'll cover a little bit more on that. But let's start with a, you know what, just because, let me just be sure I did share. Let's go ahead and listen to a short little video on IoT and iHub Global.
Do you know who owns your wireless network? Most likely, some ginormous big brand tech company with stacks and stacks of moolah. Well, what if you were able to own part of a similar network, which is growing constantly every day? It's called the Internet of Things, or IoT network. Heard of it? It powers billions of all those helpful things like our beautiful smart devices, life-saving medical sensors, security monitors, remote tracking devices, and the list goes on. So now you know you could help power all that and get paid for it in helium, which is a form of cryptocurrency. You know the digital currency that's super secure because it's kept in an online fortress of solitude called blockchain technology? But you might have known that. And all that happens from this one little device called a helium hotspot you can get from iHUB Global. All you do is plug it in and start earning or mining helium automatically, which goes directly into your account. Simple as that. You basically earn money by doing practically nothing, so you can afford to spend more time with who's important to you. Earnings vary based on where you live, and iHUB will show you simple ways to track how much you earn every day. You can also bring in your family and friends to earn more as an affiliate. And they'll earn too while we build the biggest network in the world together. And eventually, your earnings go even higher and higher with our shared hosting plan. Okay, then why iHUB Global, you ask? Because it's free to start. Our mission is growing the network by more of us owning the network. We'll do it together with simple training on the basics. We'll also show you simple earning strategies to grow. By using our proprietary app called Helium Track, you can track your hotspots and run virtual simulations to place free hotspots in the best locations to further expand your network of affiliates and earnings. Who knew owning this network could be so easy? So if you're ready, let's grow together with iHUB Global. Join and request a hotspot for your home or office today for free.
So what is the business community thinking of this idea of building this worldwide network for the Internet of Things? Well, they started shipping their hybrid helium hotspot, hybrid LoRa and helium blockchain device in December of 2019. And Time Magazine considered it one of the best inventions of the year. And in their article, they likened it to a miniature cell tower, not because this has anything to do with cell phones or cell towers, but they recognize that it's similar to the infrastructure that was required for cell phones to have a cell tower infrastructure for this new worldwide IoT infrastructure, that these devices would be able to generate passive residual income from the people that participate in building this structure. But unlike cell towers, where people had to invest significant dollars, usually in the tens of thousands of dollars to be able to participate, this is something that allows you to get started and participate in generating a passive residual for practically zero out of pocket is when it comes to participating through iHUB. So in the cryptocurrency world, they started writing articles on this new helium operation once the helium network started actually using the helium network to move IoT data to the internet. And then in the business community, Fortune magazine wrote their first article once companies like Nestle and Lime Scooters started using the helium network to move their IoT data to the internet. And so it's really becoming an extraordinary business model. As you'll see, it's come a long ways since December 19, 2019, when they first started shipping units. And so why do you want to get one of these things? I mean, yeah, it's really excellent for your communities to build this IoT network in your community. It will unleash tremendous creative capacity to overcome various different problems, to come up with solutions that use IoT. But the real reason that most of us want to participate in this is simply for the fact that we're rewarded with these H&T tokens as a result of having one of these units in our location. Now, the question is, well, how many of these H&T tokens can you earn with one of these devices? Now, that's going to depend on how many other devices are around where you are. If you've got a unit in an area where there's not a single other helium hotspot, you'll earn a minimum amount. But as you start getting other helium hotspots in your area that your unit can connect with, that's within range of this LoRa network, so usually a couple kilometers or more, then you'll be able to start generating helium tokens as a result of what they call the proof of coverage, or in other words, proving that there's coverage for these IoT devices in your area. And as you witness other units on the helium network through this radio connection, you start earning helium tokens. And the more units in your area that you can witness, generally speaking, the more helium tokens that you earn. So basically, the whole creation of IHUB was predicated on this extraordinary business model that we studied, that Helium put together to provide the solution for providing coverage for the Internet of Things, a peer-to-peer network that all of us could participate in, and all of us can earn helium tokens as a result of doing that. And we saw that there was a huge opportunity to increase the public awareness of this helium business model and be educated and trained on how they too can get involved with it and maximize the amount of helium that they can benefit by having one of these devices in their location. But it was very important for us to be able to find a way of creating a shared distribution model so that when somebody put one of these units in their location, not only would they be able to earn from that, but we would also be able to share in the distribution of some of those helium tokens to other portions of our affiliate network and create an affiliate plan around it. And we were very keen to be able to do that. And it wasn't something we were easily able to put together. But once we were able to figure that out, that's what led us to actually go ahead and start IHUB Global, incorporate the company in Florida in January of 2021, and set the stage over this time, these last 10 months, to be able to go ahead and prepare for our launch of our company this week. On Saturday is going to be our formal launch, November 6th, of IHUB Global. And so we really believe that we're focusing people's ability to have a passive income generator, something that will provide additional revenue through the form of receiving helium tokens that they can easily exchange into whatever currency they want, that can have a major impact on themselves, their families, and people around them, that they could also share with other individuals through our affiliate program and receive a very, very powerful reward structure through our affiliate program. Now, once you get one of these devices, and there's several different models now of devices that we're working with, this one that you see here was the original unit that we started working with. But since then, we've got now 4 or 5 different specific brands, but they all basically work the same way. They generate the same helium, and they all use our same proprietary affiliate model in terms of creating a leverage distribution model. But once you get one of these devices and you hook it up to your own electricity, it only uses about 5 watts, like a 5-watt LED light bulb of energy. So less than $1 a month in electricity, compared to like a Bitcoin cryptocurrency miner or an Ethereum cryptocurrency miner that uses a massive amount of electricity to drive very powerful, very beefy computer models to generate those tokens. This is completely opposite of that, but it's based on providing IoT coverage for the IoT devices around where you are. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, because this power of leverage, the ability of sharing in the distribution, is what really drives our IHUB affiliate program. And it has to do with understanding the power of leverage, because we all only have 24 hours in a day. And if we can find a way of galvanizing the efforts of multiple people towards achieving a common goal, then we can have much greater financial results from doing that than doing it all independently of each other. And so for decades, I've referred to this J. Paul Getty quote, where he said he'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 people rather than to have 100% of his own efforts, because he understood the power of this synergistic leverage that we're talking about. So with our IHUB program, my partner Chuck likes to say that he'd rather have 5, 10, 15% of hundreds or even thousands of hotspots than to only be able to get 100% of his own hotspot, which was the primary focus of where the helium community was as we started to put together IHUB Global. In other words, people can get one of these devices and they can earn from what their devices generated, but there was no mechanism for them to share this information and spread the opportunity for other people to do the same way, other than just feeling good about making that introduction, but they wouldn't be rewarded for doing so. But that's not the case with our IHUB affiliate program. So I want to kind of go over just a little bit about that. My intent here is not to train you on the nuances and the details of our IHUB referral model, but I want to just give you a sense about it, because we're going to take a look at some live units, and we're going to look at, if you were the person that made the introduction to IHUB with that particular unit, how would that affect you from the point of view of the amount of rewards you would receive? So in our program, you can refer this to an unlimited number of other people that can become an IHUB affiliate, request one of these devices, and start generating helium tokens as a result of that. Now, in the process of doing that, you are going to be building 4 separate discrete teams. They're all part of your overall IHUB affiliate team, but there's going to be 4 separate silos. The CEO of IHUB, Rick Cotton, likes to refer to them as silos of information. So the first team is comprised by the first 5 people that you refer into IHUB that have one of these devices. And then the second team is the next 10 people after that. The third team, the next 10 people after that. And everybody thereafter would be on your 4th team. Now, we're going to use an example here. And to keep this example consistent, because you've got 5 people that you refer on your first team, 10 on the second, 10 on the third. Let's say that so far you've got 10 on your 4th team, for a total of 35 people that you personally referred that are generating helium tokens because they got one of these units. And let's say that they're each generating 20 helium tokens. So on that first team, you're able to receive 20% of the 20 helium tokens that they're generating. On the second team, you're getting that same 20%, but there's an additional very, very powerful aspect of our rewards program that we call a coded bonus, a 5% coded bonus. On the third team, you're getting that same 20% plus 2 of those 5% coded bonuses. And on the 4th team, you're getting that 20% plus 3 of those 5% coded bonuses. So what would that represent on your first team? You've got 5 people having a unit, each generating 20 helium tokens a month. That would be 100 helium tokens, of which you're able to get 20% of. That would be 20 helium tokens that you're getting from those 5 people. On that second team, you've got 10 people generating 20. That would be 200 helium tokens. 25% of that would be 50. On the third team, 30% of those 200 would be 60. And on that 4th team, even though they can have an unlimited, as we said so far, 10, 35% of those 200 would be 70, for a total of 200 helium tokens that you're generating on a 30-day basis for putting that in motion. So just recapping, 35 people that you reached out to that put in and received a unit, generating 20 helium tokens a month, and you're getting 200 helium tokens. And that doesn't even include even your own unit if you happen to have one, but it's not required that you have one to do this. So whether you've got your own helium hotspot or not, is independent to receiving these 200 helium tokens. Now, what's the value of that? Well, currently the exchange rate of helium tokens in US dollars, excuse me, is a little bit over 28 US dollars per token. So if you had 200 helium tokens come in at, let's just keep it at 28, so the math is easy, that would you be getting essentially $28 times 200, that would be 5,600 US dollars that you'd be getting for that 130-day time period for just putting this particular structure in place with these 35 individuals. That's pretty astonishing when you consider that really nobody's made any kind of major out-of-pocket expense in the process of doing that. Now, it gets better than that, though, because those 35 individuals that are comprising this team that you put together, that you've generated 200 helium tokens, they've got the ability of starting to do a similar process if they choose to. And they could start putting together their own teams as a result of having this opportunity. And as they start to do that, and they start generating these 5% codes in those teams, you're able to pick up a substantial portion of the people that are receiving those codes of those teams that are in the play, and the numbers can become astronomical compared to the 200. So the 200, it would be a kind of a baseline for you going in, and that's what you personally are able to achieve, though you've reached out to those 35 people yourself, but you're not limited to 35. And there are people that have way more than 35 people that they've done this with. But again, the numbers get to be really extraordinary as you include those 5, 10, and 15% codes that happen, with the parts of your team that grow from that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to switch over to take a look at an application that will look at all the helium hotspots that are on the Helium blockchain. Now, every helium hotspot is on the Helium blockchain, not just helium hotspots in general, but also our IHUB program, proprietarily programmed units. So they're all identically on the Helium blockchain. So let's take a look at a different screen here, and we'll take a look at this. Let me just get that set up real quick. Okay. All right. So this application is plotting every helium hotspot onto a worldwide map. And it is showing us that currently there's 274,890 hotspots that are active out there in the world. When we started looking at this 15 months ago, there was, somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 units that were connected on there. And they were all in the US and Canada, except for just a small number of units that were test units elsewhere. It's only been about a year that they started shipping over into Europe and the UK. And the majority of those 274,890 hotspots are in the US, Canada, the UK, and Europe. Now, there's already a grouping of units, probably somewhere around 3,000 or 4,000 units in China. And then the rest of the world has a smattering of units as people are shipping units in smaller amounts to other locations. But the primary distribution of the helium hotspots to the other countries will start happening a little bit more as we start building up the global supply chain so that we've got enough units to really distribute equally around the world. But we're going to be doing that with IHUB Global as a result of what we're doing. Now, just if you're new to this and you're like, what are you talking about? In the world right now, we have a global shortage of semiconductor chips, and that limits the amount of these helium hotspots that can be produced on a monthly basis. Now, that's no different than the amount of cars that can be produced on a monthly basis, the amount of other electronic components that can be produced on a monthly basis, because that semiconductor shortage has affected pretty much everybody across the board. So there's smaller quantities that are being produced, and we have been working to essentially gobble up as much of that available supply chain as possible as we start to be able to provide those units to large numbers of people moving forward, towards the end of this year and predominantly in 2022. But we're going to be discussing that in more detail at our launch coming up on Saturday. So you definitely want to stay tuned to that to really see a lot of the exciting details as they come out. But let's take a look at what this really represents. We could zoom in on this map and take a look at any one individual hotspot and see precisely its activity and earnings as a result of the Helium blockchain. And I want to do that, but I want to start off over in Vero Beach, Florida, where our IHUB headquarters is, and the home of IHUB CEO Rick Cotton. He started putting units in Vero Beach about probably somewhere between 5 and 6 months ago. And before then, there was not a single helium hotspot anywhere in Vero Beach. I mean, as you start looking at those areas, it looks like there's a lot of coverage in the area. But as you really start zooming in, you realize that the bulk of those 274,000 units are in the major metropolitan areas. The smaller areas A lot of them, like Vero Beach, Florida, didn't even have a single unit in them. And so he came up with a strategy to start building some initial cluster of units, bearing in mind that you want units within that couple kilometers from you to really start generating significant helium production. He put together a cluster of a half a dozen, then 10 units within a kilometer or so where he was. Now, this unit that you see here in white, this trendy tan duck is the name of that unit. That is Rick's unit. Every unit's got a 3-word name to it, 2 adjectives and a noun. And so that unit is his initial ground zero, and he had 5 other and then 9 other units within a kilometer or 2 of his unit, kind of in this area you see here. That's how he got started. But in the last 5 or 6 months since he started that process, those 5 to 10 units ended up growing to be over 350 units as those people started telling other people in the area, hey, you got to check out this amazing opportunity of helping to build this network of helium hotspots. And that's precisely what's happened. And over the last 30 days, his trendy tan duck has generated 31.2 or 31.3 helium tokens at the current exchange rate, having a value of $880. Now, let's say that someone on this call who had already registered for IHUB, reached out to this person in Florida. You told them about IHUB. They went and registered for free. They requested a free deployment. They got a unit, and their unit generated 31.273 helium tokens over the last 30 days. What would you earn from that? Well, if it was your first team, your first 5 people, you would be making $176 for that 130-day period. But this is an ongoing thing, a month in, month out. Now, we happen to pay weekly, but I'm using 30 days as an example in this. So it would be a calendar month that I'm examining right now, or actually 30 days, because that's what the graphic here is showing, a rolling 30-day period. But we do pay weekly. But you would be earning approximately that on an ongoing basis. Now, what about the person who you knew in Vero Beach, Florida, that's represented by this white dot here, this trendy tan duck? They're able to get 25% on that $879 or $880. That would be $220 that they're getting for plugging that thing in and giving it their dollar or less of energy a month. Now, if it was on your second team, instead of 20%, you'd be at 25%. If it was on your third team, instead of 25%, you would be at 30%. And if it was on your fourth team, in other words, you had already reached out to 25 people prior to this person in Vero Beach, you'd be at 35%. And that would be $308 for that same 30-day period, just because you started building your fourth team. Now let's take a look over here at some other units. Let's go over into the London area. This unit is called the Precise Ceramic Boa, okay? And this unit is generated over the last 30 days about 25 helium tokens for about $700 exchange value. If this person was on your first team, you'd be getting $140 out of that. If it was on your fourth team, $245, okay? And let's look at another unit here in the London area. This one is called the Shallow Walnut Yak. Now, this unit generated an extraordinary 94 helium tokens over the last 30 days, representing $2,640 in current exchange value. If that person was someone you recommended, you would be getting $530 on that first team. On your fourth team, it'd be $927. Imagine that, reaching out to somebody and just for making that introduction, earning $900 or more. But again, even if it was like on that first team and you were getting 530 or even 140, like it was on that previous one we saw, there's no limit to the number of people you can be personally talking to and generating those kinds of numbers. It's totally, totally extraordinary. And by the way, this person themselves, if they were getting 25% for hosting the unit, they're looking at $662 for putting that unit in their location, and essentially just setting it and forgetting it, allowing that process to continue through this passive income that we're talking about here. So we really have an unprecedented opportunity of sharing something to help people generate a passive return for using their location and being able to do it just like people in the cell phone construction industry. People leased property to people to put cell towers on there, or they invested in their own cell towers. But in that case, they had to lease property, or they had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to participate in cell towers, where here we're practically able to do it for very little out-of-pocket cost in doing that. So let me just kind of put this in the final perspective here for the day. So if you're looking at this for the first time, I want to kind of counsel you against trying to figure out all the technical aspects about this before you're able to really get your mind around it to the point of making a decision, because you don't have to understand all the technical aspects. I think the cell phone analogy is pretty clear. If you went ahead and you leased your property to a cell phone tower, you didn't have to understand all the technical aspects of the cell phone tower. You just understood that by allowing somebody to have that unit on your property, you earned a residual, long-term residual for the amount of the cell traffic that went through that cell tower. And you'd be benefiting by it for decades from that point and decades in the future. Well, it's a similar concept here by putting one of these units in your location, but it's something that's way, way better than a cell phone tower in terms of some of the biological effects. I mean, this thing is broadcasting at an FM, at a frequency band, a radio band, just slightly higher than FM radio. So you don't have to worry about it. It's only at 5 watts, where a cell phone tower would be at way more power than one of these units. And it's really designed just to cover coverage within a kilometer or so where you are. And so, but you don't need to understand the technology of it, and you would be receiving helium tokens on an ongoing basis as a reward for putting that in your location, just like you would be rewarded if you had leased your property to a cell phone tower. Now, because this is not something that anybody can do, these things need to be spread out. You want to go ahead and lock in your location through our helium track application to reserve your property, so that your property would be the one that could be chosen, as opposed to maybe one of your neighbors for putting the unit in your area, because they need to be separated by really somewhere between 400 and 500 meters from each other to really take advantage of being the one that has this unit in your location. And again, you can refer an unlimited number of people that would be able to get one of these devices for you to earn those pieces of the action that those things generate. Okay. But you don't need to understand the technology. You really just need to understand enough to know that you can benefit by sharing this information with somebody and use our tools to do it. In fact, it's actually better for you to do that than for you to try and be able to explain it yourself. Now, I'm explaining all this because somebody needed to be able to do something like this for the people that wanted the details. But just like you can turn on your television and turn on a channel and watch a movie without understanding all the technological aspects that make that happen, it's the same way. You put one of these units out there, you receive the financial benefit in the form of helium tokens for doing it, whether you understand it or not. That's really the amazing thing about this project. So I recommend that you get back to whoever shared this information with you, have them direct you where you can get your questions answered, register as an IHUB affiliate. There's no cost for doing that, and start plotting a course to start building a team of people to do this. Now, let me put this in perspective. We showed that there's 274,000 units that are currently out there in the world. Okay. But the estimates for the US alone is that it's going to need about 3 million units just to cover the US. Now, you extrapolate that around the world for all the municipalities around the world, you're probably talking in the tens of millions of units that are out there. And we truly believe it's only going to take 3 to 5 years to completely build that network out to the point where it's built. And we won't need any other locations to do that. So there's a finite time limit on how long you can refer other people to this opportunity before the window is closed on that opportunity. So the question you need to ask yourself is, between now and whenever that endpoint is, you know, there's going to be millions of units out there that are going to be added to this network. And the question is how many of those millions of units are going to be a result of the actions that you've taken to share this with people that can also share it with other people. And you could be getting a piece of the action, 5, 10, 15% of those units that are out there. It's strictly up to you and up to the people that you share this with as to what those numbers are going to be. But once it's done, it's done. And then for decades, you'll be the beneficiary of the residual rewards that those units are generated, just like people who have a cell tower on their property are continuing to get rewarded by the activities of that cell tower that's on their property. That's what's on the table here. Get back together with the people that invited you so that you can get yourself started in doing that. And I want to just kind of end with one final note, because, you know, sometimes we look at life as sort of haphazard, that we are where we are without really any personal involvement to getting here. I personally don't ascribe to that thought process. I believe that everything we do in life contributes to where we are today, that the actions that we take or the decisions we made in the course of our lives can change our lives on a pivot, on a moment. We can make a new decision today and take action on that. That's going to put into motion the ability to change our financial future. That's what's really on the table here right now. So it's as simple as making a decision today to join us in IHUB and considering taking action on that by thinking about other people that you can start sharing that with, that could make a massive impact in your financial situation over the next 3 to 5 years. And once that's done, that's done. There may never be another opportunity similar to this come up in the world. And so I encourage you to not take it lightly. Don't be somebody 5 years from now that shakes their head kind of in regret, saying, gee, you know, I was on a presentation or I watched a presentation and I just didn't get it. I just chose not to really do anything. Maybe I was just too busy at the time. Maybe I thought it wasn't my cup of tea, as they say. But don't be that person. Take advantage of it now, because I have never seen in my 40 years of the industry ever seen anything as powerful as what this plan really has for us to take advantage of making this happen. So I want to thank you for your time. Get back together with who invited you onto this call. Take advantage of it. And by all means, join us Saturday, November 6th for our worldwide launch. You can join us virtually, or you can be with us physically in Las Vegas, although that's fairly doubtful because we're a very limited number of people that can physically be there. And, you know, if you're trying to come from the UK, I don't think you can, overcome the pandemic restrictions that this early anyway. But you want to be there virtually. It's $39 to be able to attend this event that goes from 10 a.m. Pacific time, US time, to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So that would be what? That would be 5 p.m. UK time until probably midnight, I guess. It's something like that. So it is doable. $39, you get to attend the event, make it happen. You get the benefit of that extra hour. And thanks everybody for joining us. With that, I'm going to go ahead and
Recording stopped.
And I hope everybody has a great rest of their evenings and look forward to seeing all of you on Saturday.